computer scientists began to say, well, you know, this is great, because if we're writing a computer language like Algol 60, we can have the whole of the Algol 60 grammar displayed to us. And as we're writing it in assembler or whatever, we could have half an eye on what to do next, because encapsulated in that grammar is a set of rules about where you begin, what needs to call what. You could sort of feel how you would make all of these things into procedures, subroutines, even at the assembler level. But then people began to say more and more, you know, can't we do something much more clever? Rather than you keeping half an eye on the grammar as you write the parser by hand, how about feeding in the grammar rules, which in a way are a set of rules for making it work? Why not get the computer itself to write the functions that would make this work? In other words, the grammar is the program. It just needs analysing, understanding, and turning into procedure calls behind the scenes. We're computer scientists. Could we get a computer program to do that? And we're talking really about the turn of the 1960s. Lots of people were playing around with this idea. I think the first, if you like, concrete realisation, one of the earliest ones that I'm aware of, was in 1963, a very famous computer scientist called Tony Brooker, now in his 90s, and his collaborator Derek Morris at Manchester actually used this idea and wrote a thing called the compiler. In other words, just from a grammatical description and a bit of helping hand from real humans, you can get an auto-generated translation of what it is you're after. And everybody loved the phrase the compiler, of course. And then some spoil sports, quite rightly, actually started to say, Tony, it is very catchy and people love it, but it's not really automating the whole job of writing a compiler for you. It's helping you do the parser and understanding the structure of what's written. But you know, the killer and drives you mad is code generation. You're not giving people with your system any help in code generation whatsoever. And the answer was no, but we're giving hooks into the grammar that we've understood that enable you to write the code generation actions, but we don't do it for you. Yes, okay, said the naysayers, it's not really a compiler then, is it? It's a parser generator. It's doing the top bit of your compiler. It's grouping phrases, collections of characters into words like struct, or while, or then, or if, all your reserved words. There's a front end as well, Tony, isn't there? Yes, that's the lexical analyzer, we call that bit. The bit behind it is the syntax analyzer, which is once you've got all those molecular things like your identifiers, your reserved words, how do you group them together into a program? That's your syntax analysis. Yes, and that is what you're helping me write. But the code generation is still going to kill me, and I've got to do that. Yeah, right. So the purists continue to use the words parser generator, but in the 1970s, everybody and their dog were writing compilers. It really caught fire. And it got to such an extent that people were saying, I shall just lose the will to live if more people keep saying, my compiler's better than yours. So when Steve Johnson at Bell Labs, who was, I think, a colleague and maybe even supervised for his PhD, I'm not sure, by Al Aho, another big name in this field, also at Bell Labs. And they wrote their version of one of these help you write your compiler things. And Steve Johnson said, we're going to call it YACC, yet another compiler. And fortunately, because of the talent available at Bell Labs, very quickly, Mike Lesk, who some of you will know, wrote the Tubble preprocessor, text processing, TROF and so on, said, well, you really do need a front end for this lexical analysis, you know. It would be so much easier to have that as a separate preprocessor module rather than build it into YACC. YACC should be composed large-scale structural understanding. I'll write LEX. So there we go. Back by the end of mid to end of 70s, it was absolutely routine at Bell Labs that you could call on LEX, the lexical analyzer, YACC, the syntax analyzer, and the whole lot gave you an ability to auto-generate something that recognized your particular language that you wanted recognizing.